I'm Todd Johnson, the chairman and president of Kollective. One of the most common questions that I get asked when I go to conferences and talk about executive video is how do I get my executives to be more enthusiastic about participating in our video program? And once I get them committed, how do I help them do a better job? And at the end of the day, it's essentially the same question. I've spent a lot of hours in front of the camera doing corporate video work and a lot of time helping to arrange large corporate programs. And there's a set of things that you can do that really reduce the risk and make it easier for executives to participate. And that's what we're going to focus on today. One of the most important things to do as you're getting ready for an event is to partner with the most senior person that's going to be involved and to make sure that you have their support. And obviously this is something that you want to do ahead of time, but what you want to be able to do is have this executive be your sponsor and to have them at a staff meeting or some other gathering, maybe a kickoff for the event, talk about how important this is and set the expectation that they want to see everybody participate in this event. Peer pressure as a part of this process can be a great motivator to get people who were a little bit apprehensive to get signed up. It always makes sense to incorporate humor into these events if you can. Sometimes the purpose, doesn't allow for that. If you're dealing with a crisis or you're making an announcement that could be perceived as negative, obviously humor has no place in those events. But in most cases, you have that opportunity. And one of the things that's great is to give executives the opportunity to poke fun at themselves. Being able to show that human side can be really beneficial as a part of this process. One of the other things that's really critical, even relative to sense of humor, is to be able to make sure that you allow enough rehearsal time. Getting people successful in front of the camera is really about preparation and making sure that you've scheduled enough rehearsal time, that people know what's expected of them, when they're going to speak, where they're going to stand. Those kind of things are really important. You'll find those are many of the issues that make executives really nervous going into an event. So you want to overcome those things by making sure that you schedule enough rehearsal time. One of the other tips that I think is invaluable is to provide a coach. I think especially as you're getting an executive team ready for their first significant broadcast, getting a coach lined up that will work with each one of the executives individually is really important. As execs are trying to improve, that is not the time for peer pressure. I've seen cases where people do this as a group, and it's really, that's not the right setting. What you want is a coach to work one-on-one with your executives. And I would start that process 6 to 8 weeks before your event. Not only can I guarantee you'll see huge improvement, but the other thing that you'll get is you'll get really good feedback back from the coach in terms of what they think each one of these executives is really capable of. One of the other things I think is important as a part of this process is for your executive leader to communicate to the rest of the executive team that this is the new normal. This is actually a part of your job description. And not only do I count on you to participate, I expect you to become good at this. But I think in our new brave world here, video is critical, and it's a critical part of communicating, and therefore it's a critical part of your role as an executive in today's new environment. It's really important as you get ready for your broadcast to think through the skill sets of the executives that you're going to be working with and what role each one of them are going to play and the type of message that you're going to expect them to convey. And really useful format is to use a panel format. It puts the executive in a position where they're answering questions and they don't have to manage their own transitions. It's much, much easier for an executive to be comfortable in a seat or standing, however you decide to do it, respond to a question they know is coming, give an answer, and then have a host transition on to the next person. It's a much, much simpler process. A couple key things there. Obviously, you want to make sure that you do a good job of prepping the executives. You have to be a little bit careful here because if they're too prepared, sometimes it can feel a little bit canned, which isn't ideal. The other thing that you need to do is you need to get a really good host. And although you can always go hire talent that can come play that role in your broadcast, I think it's especially impressive when you find someone from in the company, find someone from the marketing organization, from the sales organization, PR, even HR sometimes can be a great choice. And as much as you can, using that same person as a host from broadcast to broadcast can really tie things together, and it can give you continuity. The other thing that you'll find is as the team starts to become more comfortable with each other, each broadcast they go into will be simpler. Each broadcast they go into, they'll have more confidence. So being able to use a very similar format, use that same person as the host to manage transitions is a great way to go. One of the other things that I would say is I've seen great long broadcasts be performed using kind of a news format where you may have one or two hosts where you go back and forth between a panel discussion, a one-on-one interview, and maybe even some pre-shot film. So you're running B-roll to cover a certain topic while everybody on the set kind of gets ready for the next segment. So be creative, find ways to put your executives in a position where they're most comfortable and you'll get the most out of them. So we've covered a fair amount of ground here. First thing, you've got to get an executive sponsor to really provide leadership throughout this process. The next thing is find a way, if you can, to add a sense of humor. It's great to show your executives' personalities. The other thing, it's great to show how they interact with each other and the relationships that have been built there. It's a really important thing to portray to your employee base. Get a coach. It really makes a difference. Give your executives the opportunity to work with that coach ahead of time. Let them do that one-on-one. Make sure they get at least 3 opportunities to work with that coach before the event. It'll make a huge difference. And then really focus on your format. There's a lot of different ways to do an executive broadcast, a lot of different formats you can use between kind of the newscast format, the roundtable format, the interview panel format. Do something that really lines up with the skill set of your executive team, and make sure that you have enough kind of dynamic format in your video that you can really keep it interesting. And then lastly, and probably the most important thing, once you've done a broadcast, get everybody together a couple of days after the fact and go through and talk about how things went. Share the feedback from the employee community. Then get focused on the next broadcast. So as soon as you finish, you want to start talking about what the schedule will be for that next broadcast. Get that locked in. Use the same moderator or host if you can. Use the same coach if you can. Use the same studio, the same similar format type. The repetition will help that executive team become increasingly confident, and as they become more confident, they'll just do a better and better job for you all. So I hope these tips were helpful, and it'll make a difference for you and your team.